Welcome to African Spiritual Thought. My name is Imani Nassor, and I'm an African spiritual life coach and African spiritual practitioner. So, what is this channel about? This African Spiritual Thought channel aims to support you on your personal spiritual journey through presentations of my intuitive understanding. Through the presentations, I will share spiritual advice and guidance, talk about my own spiritual experiences, and promote African spiritual concepts. If the information on the channel resonates with you, please subscribe, comment, and share. You can obtain more spiritual information and support from my African Spiritual Life Coaching website, africanspiritlifecoaching.com. This vlog is entitled, There Are No Coincidences. Before we begin, we have to give thanks to all the power and the ancestors, as that of the African tradition. And this ritual is called Mabadaliko Yanishati, which translated from Kiswahili means change of energy. I'll begin. Kubadilisha nguvu sasa tunawashukuru wote, mamlaka na mababu. Kuuliza kwamba tuna uhusiano wa karibu na kwamba watatusaidia katika kuonyesha malengo yetu. It translates, to change the energy, we now thank the all, the powers and the ancestors, to ask that we have a closer connection with them and that they assist us in manifesting our objectives. I end in the words of power and manifestation. Mapenzi ya wote ni mapenzi yetu. The will of the all is our will. There are no coincidences. This blog was written in 2018. I was born in the UK in the 1970s to first-generation Jamaican parents. I'm now in my 40s, a professional, married with 2 children. As a child, I'd been brought up in the African Methodist Pentecostal Church, but by my early 20s, I rejected Christianity and other religions, as after studying Pan-African political history, I believed a more culturally relevant theology would be African spirituality. However, in honesty, for most of my life, I didn't really know or understand what it was. For many years, I had read much on what many and I believed was the pinnacle of African high culture and societal development, ancient Kemet, or Egypt. To my mind, the ancient Kemetic mystery system was the basis of all religions, and as such, I decided the principle of my art was to be the spiritual principle I would follow. But in truth, the 42 negative confessions, the book of coming forth by day and night, all core pillars of the belief system, I only understood intellectually. I didn't have a spiritual connection or understanding. I only hoped that at some point I would. My journey to becoming an African spiritual practitioner began in October 2017, as I became aware of ancestral voices, which I received a text containing a link to the DVD trailer. Out of curiosity, I watched the trailers on the link and found myself drawn to the information. It seemed to be discussing African spirituality in a way I had not heard or seen before. It's not coming from a specific cultural perspective, e.g. Akan, Yoruba, Ndebele, Ancient Kemet, etc., but incorporated them all and demonstrated the golden thread linking them. I read the glowing comments on the YouTube page for Ancestral Voices 2 DVD and book and knew I had to know more. I visited their website, read all the information explaining what they hope to impart, and bought the Ancestral Voices 2 DVD and book. What a revelation. My life was changed. I felt a burning need to take action to tackle what I had learnt. Further, I now strongly felt that the authors, Brother Dalian and Sister Verona Adolfo, were building on the greats before them and were consulting spiritual adepts across the world in order to join the dots regarding understanding African spirituality, so that what seemed unconnected information was now a cohesive whole. Additionally, the book and the DVDs show that there were many tools that Africans had developed to understand the life force stroke spirit that all existence, past, present, and future are part of. The tools depended on our place in time, our location, and the language we spoke. Therefore, the tools have many names: Bodon, Dagara, Kemetic Mystery System, Obia, Ifa, Kandabole, Dogon. None were more correct than any other. They were just the methods the spirit gifted to humans to understand reality. More importantly for me, ancestral voices drew information from across the African world to encourage us to practically engage with African spirituality. Because to truly begin to understand, you couldn't intellectually describe it, you had to experience it. Amazingly, ancestral voices too provided practical directions to utilize African spiritualistic rituals common across the world and time, which we could start to practice immediately. Further, encourage the readers stroke viewers to utilize the creator within us, also known as the intuition, to guide us. Therefore, we could become our own priests or conduits to interpret the messages from our ancestors and the creator. It didn't matter the language we used or the part of the world we lived. So using the information within African with ancestral voices too, I began to practice African spiritualistic rituals. And from the moment I made the decision to do so, I began to receive spiritual messages and insights from the ancestors and the creator. I was astounded. And the more I stopped trying to intellectually explain my experiences and just go with the flow and experience it, the more they came daily. My first step was to erect an altar in my house so that I could have a spiritual focal point in my home, a place to perform daily meditation and invocations, a tool to allow me to connect with my soul, that is the creator within, and the ancestors. As I practiced Kwanzaa, I had many of the items needed to erect an altar, except I didn't have any crystals or stones. In fact, I didn't know which crystals or stones I should use or where I could buy them from an African vendor. Shortly after deciding to erect an altar, I was invited to a Black History Month celebration. At that celebration, a vendor was selling crystals and stones. A coincidence? I believe not. This was the spirit answering my request. I looked at the crystals and stones on offer and let my intuition guide me on what I should purchase. I chose quartz and shungite, and the vendor taught me that quartz helps a practitioner to communicate clearly and spiritually, while shungite repels electromagnetic radiation and is good for spiritual protection generally. I knew by intuition that I was meant to come to that gathering and purchase the crystal and stone, as their properties were what I personally needed. I was amazed. I'd asked the creator to assist me, and I received the assistance I needed. I decided that the altar I erected should have on it symbols that exemplify both male and female energies, as I was learning that the creator is both father and mother. As I began to pour libation during my ritual, 6 magpies began to appear in my garden over the next 2 hours. Further, these magpies in my garden were not skittish, and there was no food for them to eat as far as I could see. I needed to understand what the messengers from the ancestors meant. So once again, using intuition, I was guided to a shamanistic guidebook called Animal Speak by Ted Andrews. Within this book, I learned that magpies symbolize balance of male and female energies. Also, that the number 6 symbolizes home, service, and family. The ancestors were informing me that I was on the correct path. Once more, the creator was demonstrated to me that there is no such thing as coincidence. All experience is part of the great plan devised by the divine intelligence. The creator and the ancestors continue to send so many spiritual messengers to cross my path to help me understand my journey and my divine purpose, such as more magpies, cats, seagulls, squirrels, crows, horses, donkeys, robins, ducks, cranes, and swans, and even the constellations Auriga, Cassiopeia, Leo Major, Leo Minor, and Orion, to name a few. The most amazing revelation came from the creator as I was meditating in front of my altar, staring at the candle flame. I was gifted with an understanding of all creation as a manifestation of the divine thought of the creator and the ancestors' role in this manifestation. It is revealed that our flesh stroke experience of reality is an expression of our soul being an extension of our ancestors and the spirit world stroke dimension. Our ancestors being our pathway stroke link to the creator, necessarily being our intermediaries to the creator. I now understood that we have a direct link to the Creator, as He, She is all things, including us, but on different vibrational wavelengths that the physical mind cannot perceive, as it is distracted by the unreal expressions of the divine thought. There to perceive reality, we must be in touch with our soul, which will allow us to connect to the ancestors and through them, the Creator. It is this revelation that permitted me to finally understand what the ancient Kemetians described as the fire. Develop the life-giving fire. Few know how to use it, and fewer how to master it. Taken from the book Egyptian Proverbs, Temptias by Muata Apaya Ashby. This understanding was like the opening of a lock, so that the spiritual concepts I previously struggled to understand are now understood in a deep spiritual way. For example, the 10 virtues of the initiates of Ma'at. 1. Control your thoughts. 2. Control your actions. 3. Have devotion of purpose. 4. Have faith in your master's ability to lead you along the path of truth. 5. Have faith in your own ability to accept the truth. 6. Have faith in your ability to act in wisdom. 7. Be free from resentment under experience of persecution. 8. Be free from resentment under experience of wrong. 9. Learn to distinguish between right and wrong. 10. Learn to distinguish the real from the unreal. Again from the book Egyptian Proverbs, Tempchas by Muata Apaya Ashby. Further, I now understood why a very insightful and useful psychological self-help book I read years ago called The Tools by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels resonated with me. It's because they were using African spiritual concepts. The philosophy behind The Tools is based on 3 pillars of thought. Pillar 1, thinking about higher forces is useless. You have to experience them. Pillar 2, when it comes to spirituality, each of us is his own authority. Pillar 3, personal problems drive the evolution of the individual. These are ancient African spiritual concepts that Sister Verona and Brother Dalian explained so clearly and with such insight in ancestral voices too. Further, the Creator called on me to reread the prophetic, insightful, and deeply African spiritualistic book, 2000 Seasons by A. Kwama, as I would now understand these things that were impenetrable before. Sure enough, this beautiful book is now clearer. Particular passages now appear to reflect the ancestral voices work and all the works of the African spiritualists consulted to produce it. Here are some of the passages. The reign of the destroyers has been long. It will be longer. But what is our present despair against the sharp abandonment of those first snatched away to waste? What puniness is this our anxiety against the howling agony of their murdered soul? Remember this, against all that destruction, some yet remained among us unforgetful of origins, dreaming secret dreams, seeing secret visions, hearing secret voices of our purpose. Further, those yet to appear, to see, hear, to utter, and to make. Little do we know what changes they will come among. Idle then for us to presume despair on their behalf. Foolish when we have no knowledge how much closer to the way their birth will come. How much closer than our closest hopes. Our way begins with coherent understanding. It is a way that aims at preserving knowledge of who we are, knowledge of the best way we have found to relate each to all, ourselves to other peoples, all to our surroundings. If our individual lives have a worthwhile aim, that aim should be a purpose inseparable from the way. Our way is reciprocity. The way is wholeness. Our way knows no oppression. The way destroys oppression. Our way is hospitable to guests. The way repels destroyers. Our way produces before it consumes. The way produces far more than it consumes. Our way creates. The way destroys only destruction. All we did would be nothing, less than nothing, if we forgot the way away from which all way again action is waste motion. If we forgot to seek the people's understanding first. My spiritual journey is just beginning. and I'm absolutely sure that I'm on the correct path. The daily spiritual messages I receive and the understanding that I've been gifted with evidence this. This is not a coincidence, luck, or a mental breakdown, as this spiritual awakening has taken me to a place that I finally understand what my beautiful wife has been telling me for years. I am very far from perfect and often fall short of my art, but one of the greatest gifts that the Creator has led to me to understand is that every time I fall or fail, I gain greater understanding of myself, my divine purpose, and the strength to persevere. Everything is a teacher. The self chooses the proper instruction for self. Evil as well as good both operate to advance the great plan. To have peace, there must be strife. Both are part of the structure of the world and requirements for the instruction of the children of God. All taken from, again, from the book Egyptian Proverbs, Tempchas by Muata Apaya Ashby. I end with my personal spiritual affirmations in Kiswahili. Mapenzi ya wote ni mapenzi yetu. Hakuna mwanzo na hakuna mwisho, which translates, the will of the all is our will. There is no beginning and there is no end.